Hello, everyone. I am Sybil Ludington. You can spell Sybil 7 different ways. I spell it S-Y-B. Now my last name is Ludington with 1 D. Was born in the mid-1700s, and my claim to fame, I was the female Paul Revere at age 16. Now, there are many differences between myself and Paul Revere. He was a 40-year-old military man, rode for 20 miles through the streets of Boston, calling out, "The British are coming." He also did this on a very clear night and through established pathways. Now, my ride was a little bit different. I rode on my own horse at 16 years old for over 40 miles. And oh my goodness, the night, it was so stormy. It was so bad. And I bushwhacked. I went through forest, over rivers. Oh my goodness, I had to continually reroute. But I did my job. The British are coming. Get your men to the Battle of Ridgefield. But the biggest difference in Paul and myself was that after Paul's ride, he was in every single American history book. There were thousands of publications about him. Have you heard about Sybil Ludington? I don't think so. American Revolution, women were in the background, they were not recognized, and that's why I'm going to tell you my story today. Born in Fredericksburg, my father was Colonel Henry Ludington. Oh, I was so proud of him. Only a 6th grade education. He fought in the French and Indian War. He also fought under General George Washington in the Battle of White Plains. He was also thought to have been a spy with a bounty on his head, but if you were a spy, you certainly could not talk about it. Well, of course, you had to have a day job as well. Well, my father owned and ran a 300-acre farm. He had the grist mill for the town. He was also a town selectman. He was a New York State assemblyman at one time. He was a justice of the peace. He was on the school board. He was a church elder. He was the postmaster. Oh, there was nothing my father could not do, trust me. Well, the thing that I admired most about my father, however, was his treatment of the family. I was one of 12. I was the eldest. He gave me my own horse. He took me riding with him through Dutchess and Putnam County as he visited the people in his militia to talk to them about military maneuvers. He also let me sit when they come to the house. I would be peeling potatoes, knitting, but I was listening to what was going on in the war. Oh, I so wanted to be a soldier. I so wished that I had been a male, and I finally got sort of my chance. Well, one night in late April, my father called the elder children together by the fire, and he said, "Look, things are happening, and I want you to be aware. The British under Tryon are coming with 2,000 men. They are coming down through Danbury. They are going to pick up supplies there. They are going to burn and loot, and then we think they are going to go through Ridgefield. There, my regiment is going to meet my 400 men with General Wooster, his men, Benedict Arnold and his men, and we have this plan that if we put a barricade between the cliffs in Ridgefield, we may be able to deter them and stop them from getting on their ships and going on to New York City." Oh my goodness, we did not realize all of this could happen We were so glad that our father shared this with us. 2 nights later, oh, the storm, the thunder, the lightning, the hail, the sleet, we could not believe it. There was this knock on the door. We were all alerted. There was a mercenary there, somebody to give us the message. The soldiers saluted my father. My father saluted him. And he said, Colonel Ludington, the time has arrived. You must inform your troops. They have 10 hours to get to the battlefront in Ridgefield. We can see, if you look out the window, the fires are already burning in Danbury, and they are going to be coming soon. You must muster your regiment as soon as possible. And my father said, thank you so much. Please carry on. Tell the rest of my men what you have just told me. The emissary looked at my father and said, I cannot do this. I have other places to go. You are going to have to find somebody to spread the message. Well, my father said, there's 2,000 British. We have maybe 800 among all of us. I can't spare any men. I can't do this. The man turned. He left. He said, you will have to find someone. My father put his head in his hands. He looked down. Oh, the frustration on his face. And I don't know where the voice came. And I jumped up and I said to my father, I can do this. You have been training me indirectly for this all along. I have a horse that is so strong. He has ridden to all of these towns where I need to go. I know the men. I know their families. I know how to bushwhack. I know the roads. I know the rivers and the bridges. Father, let me do this. I want to serve my country. Oh, my goodness. My mother was so upset. She came. She put her arms around me and she said, no, no, Sybil, you are a woman. This is not a job for a woman. This is a man's job, Sybil. You could get hurt. You could get captured. You could get killed, Sybil. You cannot do this. Oh, my goodness. My father stood up, put his hand in front of my mother and said, Abigail, this is between Sybil and myself. My father then said, Sybil, listen carefully to me. Do not make this decision so quickly. Sybil, it is storming. I have never seen a worse storm. The rivers are going to be swollen. You're going to have to take detours. The trees are going to be coming down in this storm. Sybil, you've probably ridden 15, 20 miles tops. You've never done 40 in the worst of weather and at night with only a little bit of light. Sybil, think about how tired your horse Star is going to be, Sybil. This is such an endurance contest. And then he said to me, Sybil, you know what's in the woods. Wild animals of all types. The Skinners are there. The outlaws, they're not going to kill you. They're going to take your horse, anything you have. They're going to knock you off your horse. Hypothermia, you could be lost in the dark of the woods. Who knows what can happen? And as your mother said, the British are out there. Who knows what they would do? Sybil, do not volunteer unless in your heart of hearts you are sure. I looked in my father's eyes and I said, I am sure, Father. This is something I need to do. My father said, okay. And he took and put his arms around me, my brother, my mother, and he said a prayer for us. I'll never forget that prayer. And then he said, Abigail, get warm clothes and food for Sybil. Jonathan, get Star ready. And Sybil, you wait here. I have something to give you. With that, my father went out and he brought in this stick. And he gave it to me. I said, Father, what am I going to do with the stick? He said, 3 things, Sybil. First of all, you're going to use it to prod Star. He's going to want to stop. You're going to want to stop. You only have 8 hours to do this, and you can't stop. He said, secondly, you can't get off your horse, Sybil. You have to use the bottom of this stick, and you're going to have to hit it against the door of the first house in the town. You're going to have to get that person up, give that person the message, have them ring the church bells, get everyone out in the town, and then you can move on. And he said, thirdly, this is going to be your weapon. I said, Father, you have taught me how to hunt and fish and shoot a gun. Give me a gun. I don't need a stick. He said, no, Sybil, I cannot do that. This is your weapon. You are strong. If you need to use it, use it. With that, I opened the door. Oh my goodness, I never realized the storm and what was happening. I said a little prayer and off I went. I started in Lake Carmel. I went through Carmel. The people were so good. Oh, they came out when they heard me at their door. They said, stay with us, Sybil, rest. And I said, no, I have 40 miles to make in only 8 hours. From the Carmels, I went to Mayapack, to Lake Mayapack, to Mayapack Mills, to Mayapack Mines. Oh, I had to make detours all along the way. Things were flooding. Bridges were down, trees were down, and from there and the Mayapacks, I went to Kent Cliffs. Between Kent Cliffs and between Reading, I had the biggest fright of all. I heard and saw a horse ahead of me. Oh my goodness, was it a Skinner? Was it one of the British soldiers? I didn't know. I didn't think he had seen me, and just at that time, a huge tree fell down, and there was a streak of lightning. It was a Skinner. It scared him in the other direction. He couldn't have come to me because of the trees that were down. I then went to Reading Center. Oh, I was so tired. I was past my 20 miles. I said, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm so tired. And then I put my head back and I started singing. Yankee Doodle went to town, riding on a pony. I sang. I talked about each of my brothers and sisters when they were born. I talked about the story my father had told me about the British coming, the 2,000 of them through General Tryon. It kept my spirits up. I finally got to Stormville, and boy, was there a storm. And finally, Pecksville. Oh my goodness, this was the last place. I had made it on time. I had warned all of the people that I needed to. At Pecksville, they said, please, Sybil, rest, get something to eat. I said, no, I just want to get home. I want to see my own bed and my family. And there I was on my horse. Oh, I was almost sleeping on my horse. Sometimes I actually put my head on his mane and slept. Star knew the way home. I did not have to use the reins. I got home. Oh, the family, all of the kids were looking out the window. They were waiting for me. Oh, my mother was so happy. She had been on her knees praying the entire time. I had a bath. I went to bed, and then I heard my father coming home. I looked out the window. Oh, I saw him see my stick and my horse. I ran out to greet him. He just buried me in his arms. He said, Sybil, all the men were there. I am so proud of you, Sybil. You are a soldier. You are a hero of the American Revolution. And then he took out of his pocket this tiny little medal that he always carried with him for good luck. And he said, Sybil, this is now for you. You are brave, courageous, you are a hero, and I want you to wear it. I had been successful. Each time one of his militia would come, they would thank me for what I had done. 3 months later, I got a handwritten message from General George Washington and Alexander Hamilton thanking me. I also got a small military pension. I was so proud I had this paperwork because it proved I was not a legend. I was a real 16-year-old girl who had served the military. Oh, I received recognition. The town that I lived in, Fredericksburg, the name was changed to Ludingtonville, and it still is today. It was named after not only my father, but also his daughter, Sybil. There's a postage stamp after me. There's a few children's books. And there's 4 statues, wonderful statues that have been made by Anna Hyatt Huntington. One is in Carmel, where I started my ride. One is in Danbury at the library. One is in South Carolina, where Anna Hyatt Huntington lived. And then there is another one at a women's museum in New York City. Well, people say, what happened to you after you were 16 years old? And I said, I lived to 77. I said there was talk that I also did spying for various military maneuvers, but if I was a spy, I could not talk. I didn't marry until age 23. That was being an old maid at that time. Everyone got married as a teenager. I married a military man who also ran a bar and tavern. I had one son. He became a military lawyer. He went to West Point. Nobody was more proud than I was. My husband died very early of the plague, and I was left to run the tavern and the inn. And that's pretty much what I did until 77. When I died, I was buried beside my beloved husband, beloved father. My father did not die in battle. He drowned. His carriage was going over the river. The spokes broke. He fell into the river, and he died in that manner. But I'm telling you this story, as I said, for a very special reason. When did anyone ever hear about the women in the American Revolution? There were so many of us. There was Jane Thomas in South Carolina. She rode 50 miles in terrible weather to warn the British were coming. She had 9 kids. After she rode, she stayed on the front line and fought the battle. There was Deborah Sampson and many other women who dressed as men and fought on the front lines. There were spies. There were fundraisers. There were those wonderful Molly pitchers, the nurses who did anything on the front line to save lives. We need to remember these women, no matter what the war. There were women warriors who were there to save us, who were never, ever written about in the history books. Thank you for listening to the story, my story of Sybil Ludington, a 16-year-old girl. I hope you'll turn in next week When you tune in next week, we're going to be talking about strong, powerful women in the arts. Now, we've all heard of Helen Keller, the great blind writer and orator. Ridgefield also had Fanny Crosby. She was blind, and in spite of her disability, she wrote over 8,000 hymns that are still found in hymnals today. In addition to this, she was an award-winning poet. Thank you for tuning in.